welcome to Broken Tool Garage. So what are we doing today? I'm going to be sending Jim to the dyno. Alright, so if you followed along and you have watched my Lipstick on a Pig series with Jim, find it right here in that card, then you'll know some of the things I've done to the car. And go ahead and put your horsepower guess down in the bottom, right in the comments, and see what you come up with. Alright, this is going to go to Dyno and Performance in Fort Smith, Arkansas for the dyno, and that's a dyno jet. It's not a Mustang dyno. Alright, I'll interject right here because I have a little bit of non-car content, and it's not really content, but more of a challenge for you guys out there at the end of the video after everything's done. So, let's get back to it. Alright, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown, not as much as if you watched the Jim Lipstick on a Pig series, but I'll tell you a little bit about the engine and we'll see what you think your guesses are, and then I'll tell you what my guess is. Alright, this is like a 1988 Grand Marquis engine. It's got about 250,000 miles on it. It also has the same AOD that come out of the car in there, same age. What I've done is, on the Jim's Lipstick on a Pig, I went through and did a little bit of the upper engine rebuild, didn't touch the lower engine other than a timing chain, and I put a junkyard cam in there. Alright, heads, 6 heads to go along with that. I put the Trick Flow 2500 100 springs in those heads, and then I topped it off with 1.7 roller rockers, Explorer intake, and throttle body. Other than that, that's pretty much what we got there. Is still the non-HO lower end and speed density. By the way, speed density. There's no tune, factory computer, untouched, and that's what we got right there. So go ahead and tell me what your guesses are, and then what we can do is something a little bit special. I know I'm talking a little long here, but if you know what cam I'm running, go ahead and put what RPM you think that I'm going to be making my maximum horsepower at. If you don't know the cam, that's fine. We can look at the dyno sheet afterwards, and then you can go ahead and guess in there, just reply to yourself, guess in there what you think the cam is. So, what do I think it's going to be? That engine from the factory was rated at 150 crank. So I'm definitely more than 150 crank, right? I think my hopes would be 200 rear wheel horsepower, but I think that's excellent, just an excellent way to show unrealistic expectations. I'd be happy with around 170 rear wheel horsepower, but we'll see. I think 170, 180, which is pretty close to what the HO engine would make with the AOD from the factory. Alright, well, that was a little long-winded, so I'm going to cut you over to the dyno footage.
Alright, normal driving, get it up into, we doing second gear on this?
Third.
Third? Okay.
Yeah, I'll hold it at 28.
Okay. Just get it up there, level off, give me a thumbs up when you're ready. about grabbing it over on here. Hang on. It's consistent, it's exactly the same. Alright, go ahead and kill it.
Alright. See if we can read that. Repeatable 156 with 237 foot-pounds of torque. Nosing over about 45, definitely. Alright, so I'm doing a little screen capture. You notice the graph is a little bit different than what you saw in the video, because whenever I didn't have my thumb drive with me, so I couldn't export the file. So when we went to export the file a little bit later, you know, like a week later or something like that, it's kind of cold in there, the computer was acting up, so I ended up just taking a screenshot and getting what I could. So my apologies on that. So this is run 2. Look, I actually started just a little bit later on run 2. Run 1 actually started back a little ways, but we see the trend of the curve, and actually the torque curve really didn't increase all that much. So that was my 237 point whatever. So nothing crazy there. Alright, so we're coming up. Hit the gas, we come up. We're coming and cruising along here, and it looks like this little blip right here is our peak. If we draw a line right down through there, we're right about there. So this is 50 RPMs on each one on this graph. That's our scaling. So if we come back to 37.5, about 3,700 RPMs, give or take a little bit, is right where that peak is, and that's the peak horsepower. Okay, so it come up right there. It didn't come up real sharp, but it did gradually get up there, stayed flat, and started dropping, really dropping right about here is what I'm going to call that. We're going to come down, so that's right about, what's that, 43, 4350, 4400 RPMs is where it started down. Definitely 4500 RPMs, this little dip right in there, it's done. And we pull it all the way out, we see this segment right here where it's getting wiggly. That's the engine's an air pump, and basically it's gone past what it can do, and you start getting some weird stuff going on in there with your turbulences and stuff. Alright, the torque curve. So we was already at peak when we started, so if we kind of trace this right out here, and like I said, I kind of know this from the other run that I didn't get screenshotted because for whatever reason couldn't export. Not really adding a whole lot, but it's definitely peaking 2,700 RPMs, and probably see something fairly flat in there for a little bit anyways. So what we can see is right up in here at the 3,100 RPM range. Alright, so that's kind of neat there to see what's going on. If we really analyze the graph, what should be going on, we're seeing this line here. We should kind of come up and cross over at some point, and then knee over, and then drop down. It's generally what we would like to see on something like that. I think what's going on is the engine is just maximized the airflow that can take place with the given system. So that's with the E6 heads, the Explorer, not GT40, the Explorer intake. I did go through and import the exhaust on the E6 heads, which don't know if we're just wasting my time or not. But I am running the Explorer cam on this, and I got the next slide down. I'm going to show you what that looks like right there. So we're going to erase all of our stuff right here. Take a look at that, and then we're going to go to the next slide if I hit the right button.
This is something that I got from Torque Monsters. They use this as a baseline. It's a 98 Explorer 4x4. So if we look, they were able to see, I wasn't getting anything before this line right there. So we kind of got to chop that off because we don't have that. But if we look at those curves right there, and we look at my curves, that looks somewhat familiar right there. Kind of comes up, flattens out, and then dives off. Now they got a little bit further because, let's see, this would be about 45 right there. I was definitely falling off at the end of that. The torque curve looks like the torque and the horsepower curves a little bit more extended on that engine, and it's probably because I'm comparing the E6 head to the GT40P heads. But if we look right here, look at that horsepower number, actually matched. If we go back here, actually matched what they did. Now they also had 203, I covered it up there, 203 foot-pounds of torque. So I actually gained some torque over the top of that setup. So why am I telling you that? I'm running the Explorer cam. So for what I'm doing right now, that's working pretty good. It's getting me where I need to be. The HO cam would definitely, if we go back and look at mine, the HO, I think the AOD was something like 170 horsepower, and it had a curve that didn't fall off as much. And I'm trying to remember what the torque is for the AOD ones. Now I know the T5 ones are a lot more, but I think it was something like 270, 260, somewhere in there, if I remember right. I might have to go look that up and edit this part. But I think I remember seeing some numbers around in there for the AOD rear wheel horsepower number. So that's a pretty good chunk that I'm missing right there and right there, just due to the camshaft. So, am I going to upgrade Jim to the HO camshaft? No, I'm not. That's adding more horsepower is not going to fix a couple key issues like my traction issue. It's not going to fix that, and it's not going to fix my slipping transmission either. It's not going to fix my rear end that needs rebuilt. Adding horsepower is the incorrect way to go right now. Plus, I still think I can catch those Miatas with the power level I'm at once I get those things corrected on there.
Alright, that sums up Jim's Dyno Day. If you like what you see, make sure to hit that like, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share this content if you think someone else would find this interesting or helpful. I'll see you next time on Broken Tool Garage. Alright, it's still the same me as roughly 12 minutes ago, and this is the challenge, is read a book. What book am I reading? I'm reading Kinder Warrior by Stu Weber. This is a good men's book right here. I challenge you, if you want to pick up a book to help you grow as a man, this is a good one to read. It's got some tough stuff in there too. I've already read it before with one of the men's groups that I've been part of, and I'm coming back and rereading it again, and I want to go through a little bit on this book. Alright, so chapter 1, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I just want to give you a little idea what is in the book. Wake up call. A man faces himself. So read the chapters, what I'm going to do, and at the end there are some pretty hard questions that I've answered before, and I'll write those down. For me personally, I'm not going to share that. I'm not asking you, if you do this challenge, to share that with me. That's something personal. But the challenge is to read one chapter a week. And I don't know if I'll post every single chapter like that in my videos, because I'm probably not going to be doing one video a week for a little bit. I'm trying to do other stuff right now, and it's not turning out like that. And the size of the channel at the time of doing this just doesn't really warrant all that kinds of work going in there. So the kinds of work I'm doing is, sanding. So just unless you want to see how to sand this spot or something, I'm not going to do a video a week, right? Okay, well, that's a challenge, and I'll keep you updated on there. The next time I do a video, I'll let you know, hey, yes, I did read chapter 1, and I did answer my questions.